studied in an attempt to find a single three-man raft as reliable as three one-man rafts, yet weighing less. The suitability of the Gemini spacesuit for parachute landings, ending a mission, or after emergency ejections is here being tested in realistic conditions. At the Navy's El Centro Air Station, Air Force pilots and Manned Spacecraft Center personnel carry out drop tests to establish the aerodynamic characteristics of the Gemini suit, as well as its compatibility with various parachute systems. Other spaceflight conditions and systems are studied by the Crew Systems Division. Spacecraft environmental control systems are among the most important. They govern the oxygen, pressure, and temperature of spacecraft atmosphere and the treatment and disposal of metabolic wastes. Moisture and carbon dioxide removal, ventilation, and temperature control for the two-man Gemini crew are accomplished by a module under the ejection seats. The green tank contains primary breathing oxygen. The yellow tanks contain hydrogen and oxygen for fuel cells. Just as vital as the spacecraft's environmental control system are the astronauts' personal life support systems. Pressure suits are developed by Crew Systems engineers and provide a closed system for protection in the event of loss of cabin pressure. Here the Gemini suit is undergoing acceptance testing. It has removable glove sections and headpiece to provide a partial wear condition for astronaut comfort and exercise. It is anticipated that during a Gemini mission, an astronaut may egress by unlatching his pressurized hatch, opening it, and climbing out of his cockpit to perform various experiments. He will rely on his portable life support system. Outside the spacecraft, he may require thermal protection against the space environment. An initial concept consisted of this coverall suitable for donning in the confined area of the spacecraft. Other concepts involve thermal protection built into the pressure garment itself. A complete suit and portable life support assembly is also being furnished by the Crew Systems Division for Apollo moon missions. The Phase B configuration is shown undergoing part of a series of acceptance tests. Under varying pressure, the suit is tested for mobility, capability, and of course, leakage. Varying torques are applied to all joints to measure their resistance. The ability of a man on the moon to function in the Apollo pressure suit is also studied in aircraft simulations of the moon's gravity, which is only 1/6 that of the Earth. These tests, in cooperation with the Air Force, provided data on man's ability to walk, to get up from a fall, and to use tools on the moon. Water produced by spacecraft fuel cells is put to good use by the Crew Systems Division's environmental physiologists. In a spacecraft, every bit of space and weight must be conserved in order to carry as large a payload as possible. So food must be compact and lightweight as well as nutritious and palatable. The moisture present in the mouth is enough to enjoy small portions in the normal manner. However, water must be added to reconstitute larger food servings, which are freeze-dried, that is, frozen and dehydrated by a process that takes water out of the food without changing it otherwise. The food is prepared, frozen, and placed in a chamber under high vacuum where it is dehydrated. After such freeze-drying, the taste and structure of solid foods remains the same, but a 2-pound item may weigh only half a pound with the water removed. To make it edible again, the astronaut will pump water into the bag through a nozzle in one end. 2 ounces of water are enough to reconstitute meals such as pot roast of beef or chicken and gravy. Each pound of water weight eliminated from a space meal also eliminates the several hundred pounds of fuel otherwise required to carry it on a moon mission. Medical research is another important activity of the Crew Systems Division. From each of the Mercury manned space flights, important data were obtained by pre-flight and post-flight examinations, as well as bioinstrumentation during flight. But to obtain further data, research must also be conducted under simulated spaceflight conditions on Earth. For example, to obtain knowledge about the human body's ability to function and survive after prolonged periods of weightlessness, groups of volunteers are subjected to complete bed rest for periods up to 2 weeks. This produces symptoms like those expected to result from prolonged weightlessness. After a few days of strict bed rest, circulation becomes sluggish, and on standing up, a subject experiences dizziness from diminished blood flow to the brain. Another highly important study in immobilization experiments concerns the demineralization of human bone and the loss of muscle mass produced because the body bones, muscles, and cardiovascular system are not constantly working against gravity. The results of these earth-bound bed rest experiments may determine the necessity and degree of artificial gravity and the types of other corrective measures which must be provided on long space flights. One method of providing artificial gravity in space may be by rotation of space modules to create centrifugal force. Studies are also being made of the use of short radius centrifuges rotating inside spacecraft to condition crew members by periodic exposure to G-forces. Another vital area of medical research being conducted by the Crew Systems Division concerns the ability of man to survive the crushing G-forces of deceleration on re-entry from longer flights. The speed of a Mercury spacecraft as it re-entered the Earth's atmosphere from Earth orbital flight was approximately 5 miles per second. But on returning from a flight to the Moon, the comparable re-entry speed exceeds 7 miles per second. Returning from a journey to the planet Mars, this speed may be increased to more than 11 miles per second. The G-forces resulting from the braking action of the atmosphere when a spacecraft enters it at such speeds make it difficult or impossible for a human being to breathe. The rate at which his lungs supply oxygen to his blood and brain is reduced as the lungs tend to collapse under such forces. If the rate of supply of oxygen to the brain is too low, or if the process continues too long, the pilot's efficiency at the tasks of operating the vehicle is diminished, or with more severe stress, unconsciousness may result. The same results could occur in simulated atmosphere entry tests in which G-forces on a test subject are created by accelerating the subject in the gondola of a centrifuge. At Johnsville, Pennsylvania, arterial blood oxygen tests at the Navy's Aviation Medical Acceleration Laboratory are conducted by Crew Systems Division specialists in cooperation with Navy doctors and with Navy and Marine pilots as subjects. Extreme care is taken in such efforts to learn more about the oxygen supply to the brain under such conditions. For a continuous determination of blood oxygen saturation in the superficial circulation of the ear, an oximeter is worn by the test pilot under his helmet. Blood samples collected during a controlled test run can be compared with the oximeter analyses. Special equipment is installed in and on the subject's left arm to collect samples of his blood during the simulated entry. A plastic catheter is inserted in the artery to draw blood on command into a syringe. The sample can then be analyzed for oxygen content and capacity. During a simulated entry, medical doctors and technicians and a psychologist carefully monitor the condition of the subject by instruments, voice, and television. In this run, the blood sample will be collected from the subject's arm when a specified G-load is reached. Any danger to the well-being of the pilot is indicated on the control room instruments. In the event of danger, the centrifuge is brought to a halt and the test is terminated. The results of these experiments will determine whether a man can withstand the atmosphere entry deceleration forces of future space missions as currently designed. If not, modification of mission concepts and spacecraft structures may be necessary, or other protective means, such as specialized items of personal equipment, must be developed. This is a 1/20th scale model of the Flight Acceleration Facility at Clear Lake. With it, crew systems engineers can check out entire systems, duplicating the interior of a spacecraft with a 3-man crew aboard, such as will be used in Apollo missions. The centrifuge can generate a maximum force of 30 Gs for 3 minutes, a force of 20 Gs for sustained periods, and can simulate a change of acceleration rate of about 8 Gs per second. Its 50-foot radius arm length can rotate a 3,000-pound payload in a 12-foot diameter gondola at 42 revolutions per minute. The final division covered by this film report was the first Engineering and Development Division to occupy fully its permanent building at Clear Lake. This is the Computation and Analysis Division. Applying the latest advances in the data processing field, this division services and assists all Manned Spacecraft Center offices and helps solve complex problems in mathematics, physics, engineering, information, and management. For example, we have seen how the Advanced Spacecraft Technology Division studies radiation shielding. The problem is simple enough in the physics involved, but highly complex in its geometry. Large, high-speed electronic computers are required to describe the location and configuration of all parts of the spacecraft and to trace the radiation through it. Similarly, each of the other divisions relies on computation and data reduction equipment and specialists. Using the most modern techniques, the results of such experiments as bed rest studies of the Crew Systems Division are rapidly computed and made available. In medical experiments, data such as blood pressure and respiration are recorded at frequent intervals on cards. The data may then be transferred to tape for correlation and analysis. The plotted data can then be photographed on microfilm and viewed in continuous form, or printed as single plots, giving medical specialists their vital comparative research facts. In almost any field of inquiry, the Computation and Analysis Center can provide in a matter of minutes answers that might require years to arrive at by manual techniques. In cooperation with private industry, universities, and other governmental centers, the engineering and development personnel of the Manned Spacecraft Center have greatly contributed to this decade's accelerating expansion of fundamental knowledge. As we learn more about space, as we solve more of its riddles, we also learn more about the Earth and about the mysteries of life itself. These men and women may never ascend farther from Earth than their own desks and laboratories. But there, behind the headlines, they quietly prepare tomorrow's breakthroughs in the exploration of our universe, the most complex and the most exciting of mankind's adventures.